Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I have been getting a lot of questions ever since I went back to blonde hair back in February. Just tons and tons of questions about my hair and my hair care routine. So I thought that instead of doing like a few different videos, I thought I would just make one sort of larger video. So I'm guessing that this is going to be on the longer side. So I am going to put some timestamps down in the description with different topics or like frequently asked questions. So if you are just looking for something a little more specific, that way you can just go and find what you're looking for and you don't have to watch the entire video if you don't want to. So I'm going to show you some of the products that I use just on a regular weekly basis and also tell you how I do maintain my color without having to recolor it and do anything damaging to it, and also just kind of share some tips that you can do and live by so that you can either make your hair healthier if it's already damaged or prevent it from getting damaged in the first place or more damage. I will start first with the products that I use, what I use to clean my hair, and just, you know, what I use on like a weekly basis. Let's just go in order from when I wash it to then when I style it. So first of all, let me mention that I only wash my hair 1 to 2 times a week. And some people might think that that sounds really gross, like, oh, doesn't your hair get super greasy? And honestly, when your hair is bleached like mine is, it's just drier, so you'll find that you don't really need to wash your hair that often anyway. And also, it's just in your hair's best interest to not wash it as frequently. So I'll get into that a little bit more later on. But I just wanted to mention, just so you kind of get an idea of how often I use these products and how often I'm doing these things. For shampooing and conditioning my hair, I actually use 2 different shampoos and 2 different conditioners, and that might sound a little excessive, but you'll kind of understand why in a second. I'm sure if you are blonde, you're already familiar with purple shampoo. So the one that I use is by the brand Naissant. I think that's how you say it. And I've actually got a few questions like, what exactly do you mean by purple shampoo? What is purple shampoo? It's literally purple. So when you have blonde hair, especially if you're not a natural blonde, so if your hair is naturally brunette, very dark brunette especially, like mine is, what happens is your hair will kind of start to get brassy. And you'll find when you have blonde hair, your hair color will look different like week to week. Even if you didn't color or do anything different to it, the tone just kind of changes just as you wash it, when you use heat on it, when you go out in the sun. It can kind of get brassy, and by brassy I mean it can look a little bit more warm. It'll get warm tones in it, yellow, orange tones in the hair. And a lot of the times too, when your hair has warm tones in it, it can look a little bit darker. So purple, obviously if you think about your basic color wheel, purple and blue cancel out yellow and orange. So purple shampoo is just going to do exactly that. It's going to cancel out the brassy or warm tones in your hair and just make the hair look a little bit more neutral, a little bit more cool toned, more just like a natural, nice, pretty, refreshed blonde. After the first time I used this, I was just blown away, and as soon as I'm finished with these bottles, I am going to be repurchasing these forever and ever. As long as I'm blonde, I'm going to be using these products because I've used so many other purple shampoos in the past and they never really seem to make a huge significant difference to my hair. But I think this, because it's super pigmented and it is a little bit more of like a blue violet rather than just like straight up purple, because it has that blue in there, it really cancels out everything, the yellow and the orange tones. I will say though that this is very powerful, especially if your hair is as light as mine is or even lighter. You want to use this sparingly. So I can't use this every single time I wash my hair because sometimes I start to get kind of like a purpley tint. If I'm like right under direct light, you can kind of see like a purple tint, especially like at the top of my hair. It washes out and fades after a few days, obviously. It's nothing to worry about, so don't be scared that your hair is going to turn purple or anything. It's not. But sometimes if you use this like multiple times in a row, it can do that to the hair. So that's why I also suggest getting a second shampoo and conditioner, just like a regular one, preferably something that's sulfate free, something that says it's for damaged hair, to use in between. So I will use the purple shampoo and conditioner every other time I wash my hair, and then the times in between I will just use like a regular shampoo and conditioner, like from the drugstore or something. I'm not showing you like specifically the one I'm using right now because I'm kind of in between shampoo and conditioner right now, so I don't have like a set one that I'm like, yeah, this is what I use all the time, but this is definitely like a staple in my hair care routine. And if you are blonde, you need a purple shampoo, and this is the one I really recommend. You can get this on Amazon. I'll have the link to all the products I'm showing you down in the description. So yeah, I will just shampoo my hair, lather it up, you know, standard basic, and then when I have the conditioner in my hair, I will go with a wide tooth comb and just really gently brush through my hair. When your hair's damaged, you really want to be extra gentle and careful with it. And especially when your hair is blonde, even if you feel like, oh, well, my hair feels healthy, it's not damaged. But when your hair is bleached, it's more prone to breakage and damage. So I don't like to excessively brush my hair more than it needs to be brushed, and I definitely don't like to brush through it when it's wet. So the only time I will do that is when there's conditioner in it and with a wide tooth comb. So that way, if I do have any tangles or knots in my hair, the conditioner with the wide tooth comb will help just really gently get those tangles out without pulling on my hair or ripping any of it out or creating breakage or anything like that. So I definitely suggest getting a wide tooth comb. This one has like a little hook, so I just keep it hanging in my shower and just use that. So once I get out of the shower, I will just very gently towel dry my hair, and then I will take 1 pump of this. This is a hair elixir. This is by the same brand that makes that purple shampoo and conditioner. This is basically just like a really thin oil. So I just take 1 pump of this, rub it between my hands, and then I just kind of rub it into my mid shaft down to the ends. Anytime I'm using like any kind of leave-in conditioner or oil product, I try to avoid my root area because I don't want it to weigh my hair down or make my hair get oily or greasy quicker. So just kind of like from my ears down, and that'll just kind of help prevent my hair from getting super frizzy as it starts to dry. So I let my hair air dry as much as possible. When your hair is wet, it's in its most fragile and weakest state, which is another reason why I don't like to brush my hair when it's wet, except with a wide tooth comb. So you also don't want to apply heat to your hair when it's in that state. So I try to let my hair air dry. So I will just kind of clip it up in a clip or whatever, but I try to let it air dry at least 80% of the way. Then from there I'll go and I will use some more products. So what I've really been loving to use is the It's a 10 Miracle Leave-In product. This is a pretty pricey product. This bottle right here was about $30 or $35. It is more expensive, but I think when it comes to your hair, especially if you do a lot to it, you really want to invest in good products. So I do suggest this. If you're unfamiliar, I've mentioned this so many times on my channel, but this has 10 benefits to it. So it repairs dry, damaged hair, adds shine, detangles, controls frizz, seals and protects hair color, prevents split ends, stops hair breakage, creates silkiness, enhances natural body, and is also a heat protectant. So that's another reason why I love this. So I will spray this kind of all over my hair and use this as a leave-in conditioner and as a heat protectant. Now, if you don't have the money to invest in this, it's a little bit too pricey for you, then I suggest using this instead. This is just the Chi 44 Iron Guard. This is just a heat protectant spray. Anytime you're using any heat on your hair, even if it is just the blow dryer, you have to use a heat protectant. No matter what, but especially if your hair is bleached, because again, it's more prone to breakage and damage, so you want to protect it as much as you can. So I just will use both of these. I'll switch it up kind of depending on, you know, my mood or whatever. So then from there, I will just blow dry my hair. After I blow dry it, I will take another pump or half a pump of the hair elixir once again, rub between my hands, and then just kind of put it on the ends. Again, just to kind of smooth everything out, make it look shiny, and also just put a little bit more moisture back into my hair. And then usually by day 3, day 4, definitely, my hair does start to get a little bit oily and greasy up at the roots. So then I will use dry shampoo. And dry shampoo is something that I definitely suggest getting just to anyone, but especially if your hair is damaged and you're trying to not wash it too much and not, you know, do too much to it. Dry shampoo is just a powder in spray form basically. You just spray it a little bit onto your roots, kind of work it in there, and it'll just absorb all of the oil and greasiness up at your roots and make your hair look cleaner and kind of just hold you over until you're ready to wash it again. The one that I seem to repurchase the most often is Batiste, but I also really like the Dove dry shampoo as well. So that's basically it for my routine and the products that I use on a regular weekly basis. Now, of course, there are like some other products I like to use depending on how I'm styling my hair, but just from like a hair care kind of standpoint, that is everything that I use. So I want to talk a little bit about how I maintain my blonde hair color, because I did get a few questions from some people asking me like, how is blonde hair to maintain? Is it as annoying and as high maintenance as like red or blue? And I just got a lot of like comments and questions from people who seemed really confused. So I just kind of wanted to explain that a little bit. So blonde hair is actually the opposite of most other hair colors. When you're going darker or you're adding, you know, red or something like that to your hair, you're adding pigment to it. So you're either like filling in your hair or you're just adding color like on top. Blonde is sort of the opposite. When you're bleaching your hair, you're stripping your hair of color. So you're just kind of sucking all that color out. So I like to think of blonde as the absence of color. That's another reason why when your hair is blonde or it's bleached, it is more prone to breakage. Like I keep saying, it's more fragile because it's stripped hair basically. So it's not like red or something where it's gonna wash out and eventually your hair is gonna turn back brown or something like that. It doesn't work that way. So you don't have to worry about the color fading. What you do have to kind of worry about is it getting brassy. So I mentioned earlier in the beginning, when your hair is blonde, it can kind of just, from being out in the sun, washing it, styling it, whatever, it can kind of get brassy. It'll get a little bit more warm looking. These yellow and orange tones will just kind of start peeking through the hair. It just kind of happens naturally. And so what you want to do is cancel those out so that you can have a more neutral and cool toned hair color. So that's why I said that I like to use purple shampoo and conditioner. Just use that every other time I wash my hair, and that's how I just keep those tones away and I keep it looking fresh. And that's literally all I do to refresh the color. I do not put a toner on my hair. I do not recolor my hair. The only thing that I do to my hair as far as like chemical processing and like coloring or bleaching is on my roots. When my roots start to grow in, I will touch those up. But that's it. And I'm not going to get into how I do that because that's like a whole nother video, but that's it. All of this here that you see that's blonde already, I do not touch it with color or bleach especially, because it doesn't need it. Once your hair is the level of blonde that you want, you don't need to put any more chemicals on it to refresh that color. All you need is a purple shampoo, maybe a toner if you want to, but this stuff is strong enough that it, you know, works just as well, if not better than a toner. So that is all you need to maintain your hair color. I see so many people, and I used to do it too. I used to always like recolor my hair. Oh, my hair's looking a little bit darker. Oh, it's not looking like the tone that I want. So I would recolor it. And that's how, when I was blonde in the past, that's how my hair got more damage and it started to kind of thin out and I was having breakage. So I do not do that anymore, and now I have no breakage at all whatsoever. My hair is nice and strong and healthy. So when it comes to maintaining your color, that's all you want to do. And I do suggest when you are getting your roots touched up, going to a professional, because it is so easy to bleach on top of parts that are already bleached and then create breakage and just destroy and ruin your hair. So yeah, that is what I do and what I suggest for maintaining the color, refreshing it, touching it up. Lastly, I just want to share some tips. This is if your hair is blonde, bleached, if you color it a lot, process it a lot, if it's damaged, whatever the case may be, just to keep your hair healthy, get it in a better state, and just have nice, you know, strong, beautiful hair. Now, if you have been following me for the past year or so, then you know or you remember that I've had blonde hair in the past, and I had it for quite a while, and then it eventually just started to get really damaged and it was kind of thinning out and I had breakage and it just wasn't looking very cute. So I decided to go back to brown hair, and I just spent like 7 months just nurturing it, trying to get it healthy again. So these are some tips that I did during that process to kind of like restore my hair, and also what I'm doing now to prevent my hair from getting damaged again. So my first tip is to wash your hair less often. And I know a lot of people are just very reluctant when they hear that, because I know some people just feel like they have to wash their hair every single day, because if they skip just one day, their hair gets so greasy and oily. And I used to be there too, trust me. But number one, if your hair is dry to begin with, especially if it's bleached, you won't really need to wash your hair as often anyway, because your scalp and everything is just going to be a little bit more on the dry side. And yes, washing your hair really often can be sort of bad for your hair because it strips your hair of its natural oils and all that kind of stuff. But the reason why I also really stress not washing it so often is because for me personally, when I wash my hair, I blow dry it, and then I will either, maybe straighten it or add some waves or something to it. I apply heat to my hair. But once I do it that first time, my hairstyles last pretty much all week or until the next time I wash my hair. So I'm only applying heat to my hair once or twice a week. So not only am I washing it less often, but I'm also applying heat to it less often because I'm washing it less often. Does that make sense? So there's just so many benefits to prolonging the time between shampoos. My next tip is to not over-process your hair. Now, if you're like me and you like to constantly change your hair color, I totally get it, but try to wait as long as possible in between hair colors so that your hair has some time to rest in between. Now, if your hair is blonde, like I mentioned earlier, you shouldn't be doing any chemical processing or any coloring to your hair, the hair that's already blonde. The only processing you should be doing is on your roots as they start to grow in, just to touch them up. I already said this once, but once your hair is already the level of blonde that you want it to be, you should not be coloring it or bleaching it anymore, because all you're going to do is over process your hair, and it's going to create breakage. Your hair's going to break off, it's going to start to thin out, and it's just going to be damaged. So that's why I suggest using a purple shampoo and conditioner to refresh your color rather than recoloring your hair when it starts to look a little brassy. My next tip is to use less heat. It kind of goes hand in hand with what I was saying before about washing your hair less often. But if you're the type of person that you're using a hot tool every single day on your hair, probably want to cut back a little bit, because obviously heat is going to be damaging to your hair. So try to not do it too much. I know it's kind of unrealistic to say like don't use any heat on your hair at all, but try to really cut it down to like once or twice a week if you can. And whenever you are going to use heat, always, always, always make sure that you're using a heat protectant. My next tip is to leave your hair alone when it's wet. I kind of mentioned this before when I was talking about like my hair care routine and what I do with my hair. I said that I use a wide tooth comb whenever my hair is wet. I try to not brush through it or apply heat to it or do anything. I just let it air dry, do its thing. I try to not touch it and just leave it alone, because when your hair is wet, it's in its most fragile state, and especially if your hair is bleached and wet, it is really fragile. So try to not mess with it too much. Let it dry first before you start applying any heat or doing anything to it. My next tip is to just be gentle in general with your hair. You don't want to put too much stress on it. So putting it in a really high, super tight ponytail or bun. Actually, what I suggest doing and what I do myself is I use scrunchies, something soft like this, so it doesn't apply as much pressure and tension as just like a regular hair tie. And I also just wear my hair like in low ponytails or braids, because the more you're pulling on your hair, you can create breakage, and obviously you don't want that to happen. To kind of go hand in hand with that and being more gentle, also be super gentle and careful when you're brushing your hair. So for example, the brush that I always use when my hair is dry is this Tangle Teaser. And if you've never seen one of these brushes before, the teeth on them are basically all different lengths, so it's not applying too much pressure or tension to your hair. So if you do have tangles or anything, it's not going to just like rip through them. It's just going to kind of gently brush through, and it won't create any breakage or pull any of your hair out. So I'm not going to brush my hair right now because it's curly and it's just going to be really frizzy, but I always hold my hair so that way I'm not pulling and it's not going to like, create any breakage. hold your hair gently so that way you're not pulling too much, and then just start from the bottom, gently brush your way, and then work your way up so that if there are any tangles, you're not just like ripping through it, you know? You just want to kind of slowly, gently work your way up. I hope that makes sense. Because you'll actually be really surprised like how much breakage you can create just from brushing your hair. So definitely make sure you're being careful with that. Then for sleeping, I suggest always sleeping with your hair either in like a low ponytail, bun, or a braid. Something where your hair is just, you know, all together nice and neatly so it's not going all over the place and getting tangled or creating breakage or anything like that. And also I know a lot of people suggest sleeping on a satin or silk pillowcase because cotton and breathable fabrics like that are basically just going to absorb any of the moisture that's in your hair and it'll just like suck your hair dry. Whereas a non-breathable fabric like satin or silk will not do that, obviously. So it'll just help kind of keep your hair from getting frizzy and it will just help it stay, you know, smooth and silky and hydrated. So personally, I don't have one yet, but that is something that I constantly hear people saying is like really, really good for your hair. So that's another tip that I wanted to mention. And then my next tip is to trim your hair often. It just helps your hair grow more and stay healthy. So I really, really suggest getting a trim at least like once every 6 to 8 weeks. That's something that I make sure that I stay on top of. And then the last thing that I did want to kind of briefly touch on is Olaplex. So if you've never heard of Olaplex, it's sort of a new-ish kind of product. It's actually a salon treatment. And what they do is they add it to bleach or color mixtures when you are processing your hair. It prevents your hair from getting super damaged. So obviously when you're bleaching your hair, it gets really dry, it gets kind of damaged. If you use Olaplex, it won't do that. And if you are subscribed to me and familiar with my channel, you know that my hair was red a few months ago and I went from red to blonde and my hair during that process got pretty damaged. But when I went to the salon to actually get it bleached and, you know, do the final process, she used Olaplex and it completely restored my hair. It went from like really damaged and feeling like cotton candy to just feeling like regular hair. And now my hair, I literally have no breakage. It is so strong. That definitely saved my hair. So they can add it to bleach and color, like I said. They also can just do it as a treatment on its own. So if your hair is already kind of damaged and sort of dry, it will repair your hair and it also will prevent it from getting damaged if you bleach and color it. So that's something that I really suggest doing because ever since I tried that now, I am never going to ever color my hair without Olaplex. It is something that only professionals can purchase, but I will put the link to their website down below so you can read a little bit more about them and you can also find a salon in your area that offers Olaplex. This is not sponsored at all. I just swear by it and it's like life-changing. That is another thing that I really suggest, especially if you like to color your hair really often. It'll help keep your hair from getting ridiculously damaged and destroyed. So that is it for this video. This was a long one, but I just wanted to really make sure that I covered all of my bases and I answered all of the questions that I've been getting. So I hope that this video was nice and informative. I know I threw a lot of information at you, but hopefully it all made sense. I will have links to everything that I mentioned down in the description, like I said. If you have any further questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments. And if you found this video helpful, I would really appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. Maybe shared it with someone that you think might find it helpful. Also subscribe to my channel if you aren't already. And I will see you in my next video. Bye. I have 7 different colors here to show you with a variety of different finishes. So I'm just going to go in order from lightest to darkest and just show you what they look like on the lips and how they apply. So the first color I have here is Skimpy, and this is a glossy finish. This